Welcome to Candlelight Conversations with Angels. I'm Debbie Pokornik, and I am here with Angelia LaRue. If you just look at Angie there, she kind of looks like an angel, doesn't she? And I often refer to her that way because Angie had this spontaneous conscious awakening back in 2011 that just completely rocked her world. It changed everything for her and opened her up to some really incredible experiences. In fact, I think it's safe to say that it completely changed your life, 100%, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And so she actually came on my show, Vibrant Powerful Moms, which is a podcast that I do. And she shared some of her information with me. We got to know each other a little bit. And the two of us started talking, and we thought, you know what? This information has to be out there for the masses in a really easy way for people to gather that information. And as we talked, we found that even though my own awakening was actually quite slow, it's taken me like 30 years to get where I am now. There has been a few moments that I would call rather treacherous and a little bit like getting hit with a baseball bat or a 2x4. But for the most part, my learning has been very slow. And yet, when the two of us talk, we find that we really connect and that we have a lot that we can share. And so that's what these Candlelight Conversations are all about. If you want to find out more about us, you can go to crystallarrays.com. You'll know we'll put all this information on here. But there's a page there that will show you our bios, and it'll connect you to any of the videos that are live, and it'll also connect you to the interviews that I did with Angie, and you'll be able to get whatever information you want about us. But in the meantime, we are here to share really great information that Angie certainly has access to all of the time, and I have access to in little snippets throughout the day. Anything you'd like to add, Angie?
And all of us do. You know, even out there in the listening audience, there's been many of you who have had access to important information right in the moment that you needed it. And this is something that we all have access to and can even train up and make it more readily available and reliable.
Yes.
So Debbie and I are not unique at all. We like talking about it, though. It keeps it fresh in our field, and it helps it be more accessible. And,
yeah.
You know, always remembering. Oh, that's right. That's how we do it. Oh, that's right. That's how we do it. Whatever it is.
Exactly. So with that in mind, I feel like today's conversation could be about that inner knowing, about that tuning in and trusting what you're hearing. But I'm wondering if before we go into that, if we should maybe just do a tiny little process to help people see how we set intentions, how we start things off, how we clear the air, clear our bodies, and so on.
I like that. That's a great idea.
Okay, then let's do it.
So one of the things that's always very important to me is to bring in the angels and the guides, the benevolent beings who work with me and us, and our higher selves. There's an eternal aspect of us which has the eagle eye view. It has this cosmic universal view, and it can inform the brain and the body. So as I bring them in, I would like you to become very aware of your body and the energy right around you, like a foot out from your body. That part of the field is yours, you as well. And just see if you can feel into that, feel your own presence surrounding yourself. I invite the angels and the guides and the benevolent beings who work with each of us, please be present, surround us, hold this container for one in which a message is delivered perfectly, a message which comes from love and from fellowship. Mother, Father God, source creator of all, we ask you, be within us and all around us. We ask our higher selves to draw nigh and indwell. Join in this sharing as we experience being both human and divine. Mother Earth Gaia, we ask you, connect into our fields and ground us so that when this is done, we can go about our third dimensional lives with ease and grace, being well grounded. And to all of you, we love and appreciate you so very much. Thank you. So be it. Amen.
Amen. I think I needed that. It's been a very busy day in some ways, and it can be hard to remind yourself to really settle in to who you are. So thank you for that. And
I love that. I love that shift that happens when I move into very powerful prayer with the intention to accomplish something. These waters inside of me, right, which can be, turbulent or stormy or just rippling, become so still and calm that I can almost see the cosmos reflected in this great stillness comes inside. Mm-hmm. And in that stillness, I know everything is perfect and everything's going to be okay. And I love that. The power of prayer is phenomenal.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I find that the breathing part, the deep breaths make a huge difference for me. Mm-hmm. So even if I'm in a really stressful moment of my day, I'll stop for a moment and go, okay, just take a deep breath. And I breathe deep into my belly, and it brings my shoulders down. But more than that, it just opens me up so that the best version of me can come forwards into that moment. And I think that breathing is just such an important part. I mean, it is, obviously. Everyone listening is going, of course you have to breathe. But I'm talking about conscious, deep breaths of emptying your mind and just letting it all flow through your body.
There's a mindfulness that happens. We're very careful to focus just on our breath, no other thoughts, no other noticing. We're fully focused, fully encompassed in the breath alone. And it just brings all those busy gears of the mind to slow down, right? Absolutely. And it helps us get more present in our body and our field, right?
Love it. I feel, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, there's something about trusting our inner knowing that we can almost only hear that inner knowing when we get really quiet. And even if that's putting a question out to the universe, mm-hmm. and then just stopping, just on the breath, just focusing on our breath and allowing that answer to come in. But there has to be a silence in the mind and a stillness in the heart to receive that inner knowing.
Yes, absolutely. And it's interesting because what I was going to say is I was feeling guided to share one of the things that really helped me with emptying my mind. Back many years ago, someone issued a 1-minute meditation challenge. And the idea was that you set a timer for 1 minute, and it would go, I think it went off maybe every hour, this timer. And for 1 minute, you were just to sit and empty your mind. And when I first tried doing it, I mean, my mind is always going in a million different directions. There's a lot of stuff going on in there. Not because I'm brilliant. That's not it at all. It's because, I mean, I'm brilliant in some ways, but that's not what I mean. Simply because there's just so much going on and I'm noticing it all the time. And so when this minute would come, at first I just sat, and all I did, like we just discussed, is I focused on my breath for that minute as a way to empty my mind. And suddenly what I found was that there was this space in my head. It's right behind the third eye, but I didn't know that then. And I could fall into it. It was like this chasm, this sort of hole, and I could just fall into that spot. And when I did, everything went quiet for about 3 seconds. And then some of my thoughts would go, oh my gosh, this is so cool. I'm really doing this, and I'd have to breathe again and bring it back in. But by the time the challenge was over, I think it went on for a month, I had gotten really, really good at 1 minute only, of quieting my mind. And, I've grown since then, but I still, when you started doing our little prayer, if you want to call it that, at the beginning, my brain was still going, thinking about all of these different things. And I had to pull all the little Debbies back that were out there trying to scatter my energy, and pull them all back and just breathe into that. So I felt like I needed
Getting present is one of the hardest things that we do, is to get truly present.
Mm-hmm.
As a child, we're only present, right? Right. As these brains get trained and get all the schooling and get all these to-do lists, we spend most of our life in the future. What do I need to do? Or in the past, oh, I did that thing, or I'd like to redo this in a different way, or whatever. But we're not present. We're future, or we're in the past. And it's interesting to even notice that, become aware of our thinking. Where am I? Am I in the present moment? Probably not. Or am I in the future or the past? And if we're present moment, a lot of times there's a peace that's there, or there's an emotion that's there. And I think we've done some exercises about how to get into the present moment even.
But I don't think we can say it too many times, because it is such a challenge. And I'm on an adventure right now called Magic and Manifestation through the eclipse season. And we're in a group that there's the keepers from the Akashic Records are being channeled. And the one thing I want to mention is they've been talking about time, and how that whole construct of time is actually different from what we think it is. And I would imagine that you have experienced this, where
I am having a very strong challenge with this. And you probably don't know this, but the university, I don't think I want to broadcast this too much, but a university is working with me. And we're working on getting this specific information that happens on very specific dates, very exact, at a very exact time, traveling out of body to get that information and return it. And then some days later, that information actually happens and we're able to check it. And what we've discovered is I have about an 80 to 90% accuracy at traveling out of body and getting information. But what I have no control over is what day I'm landing on, because Tuesday is the same as any other Tuesday in the time-space continuum. All time is happening now. So I can't control the Tuesday I'm landing on. And this is really making this experiment, which theoretically is going to be turning into a published paper, a real challenge. Because when all time and space is now, how do you delineate in the greater consciousness construct one Tuesday from another? And I can't tell when I'm peering into one Tuesday and through it into another. And we're statistically watching. I jumped 2 months. I jumped 3 weeks. I jumped forward a week, right? I'm getting the exact information from a very specific time, but it wasn't the time we wanted. It wasn't.
So your time travel machine isn't quite working yet.
Yeah, because it's all time, right?
Right.
Time is not actually linear. And so when, the Akashic Records keepers say time isn't how we understand it, oh yeah. I'm trying to triangulate maybe off of stars or something, like what spirit shows me is that how spirit tracks a sense of time is based on planetary movements, asteroids, different movements in the heavens, different energies in the heavens. And that seems to be as close to a clock as the greater
So then
consciousness construct.
I wonder if you thought about, you know, okay, at the half moon, at the quarter moon, at the, you know, quarter moon waxing, you know, quarter moon waning, that kind of thing, if that would help you land on the right Tuesday, because that seems to be what comes up a lot, is the moon cycles are so much more important than just our menses, right? They're just, or the tide going in and out. The moon and all the planets have such a huge influence on us.
Well, all the old religions had some type of way of tracking the moon and the solstices, and this was really important to them. And we archaeologically we find this over and over and over and over again. Now, the modern religions I don't seem to be connected with this or care about this. They're following the words of man instead of the pictures of nature, right?
Right.
But it does. And when I'm trying to do a scientific experiment, or actually the university is with me, and we're having to fall back on knowledge of the ancients.
Yes.
They knew some stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very interesting. So what else would you like to share about inner knowing? Because we kind of started to go into that topic and then we sort of jumped out of it. And really, I don't know if you have a practice or something you'd like to share for that, because we're very close to where we go into a practice.
Okay. Well, I have a little story. This happened at an event the other night. A lady sat down beside me and she was telling some other people at the table about a reading that she had had with me. And I've done hundreds and hundreds of readings, and I had forgotten the story, and I ended up crying because it was so deeply touching.
Oh,
In the reading, she was asking about the future of her son, which was extremely alarming. Speaking of inner knowing, I just had to check in and make sure I could tell the story.
good idea.
Yeah. He was going through a phase as a teenager where he was very suicidal, and she was in and out of the hospital with him. And she'd come to me really just as a mother wanting to know, is he going to survive? And when I did the reading, it showed that, yes, he was, and he was actually going to go into the military. But he would only be in the military a very short period of time, and a butterfly would have something to do with it. I had a card with a butterfly, and I could not figure out what a butterfly had to do with the military. He would get out of the military and he would go into construction work. But it wasn't with his dad. It was some other venue that he'd be doing construction work in, where she didn't know how to tell her son that maybe going into the military was a good idea. So she didn't say anything, and she just kind of, gritted her teeth and bit her fingernails. And she came home from work one day, and he said, "Mom, I made up my mind. I'm going into the military."
Wow.
So he went into the military, and he was either in maybe the Marines or the Army, but he was assigned to a machine gun. He was to be a machine gunner, and they were in boot camp, and they were out, practicing with the machine guns out in this blasted area of the desert in which there was no life because everything had been shot up by all these other cadets as well. And a butterfly landed on the end of his machine gun. And he knew if he fired his machine gun, because they get super hot, that it would melt the legs off the butterfly. And he couldn't do that to the butterfly. And his sergeant keeps yelling, "Fire, fire." And pretty soon the sergeant's standing behind him yelling, "Fire, fire." And he just can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So he was released from the military as unfit for duty. And that was his coming of age day. He learned that day, because of that butterfly, he wasn't a killer. He couldn't kill himself, and he couldn't kill a butterfly. So he got out. He did get a job as a contractor, as a construction worker, and he installs beautiful lighting and water fountains. And his work now is very creative, very expressive. water and light are forms of life. So, but in that reading, when I got this information that he was going to live, he was going to go into the military, and a butterfly had something to do with it.
Right.
I didn't know if I could trust that. None of that information fit together to make any sense.
No.
And
Right.
I just had to, in the moment, say what I was presented and trust it, even if it didn't make sense. And then later we learned, in fact, it's a story about a machine gun and a butterfly and a coming of age.
What an amazing story. I mean, it's beautiful in so many ways, because the idea that someone can look and see the butterfly and think, I don't want to hurt this butterfly. I mean, that's such a beautiful heart to begin with. And I've gotten now to the point, I used to, I'm going to admit this, but I used to be okay. Like, I would kill spiders and stuff. And I'm not suggesting that people who kill spiders are bad or wrong or anything. I'm not saying that. But I have just found that the more open my heart has become, the more I'm coming from a place of compassion. Now I say to spiders in my house, oh, I have company coming over, go and hide if you don't want to be killed, because they might kill you. Like, people are afraid of you. So go and hide. And I give it the chance to go and hide. And I've only had one spider die with company here, where this person came down and said to me, I had to kill a spider because my girlfriend was afraid. And I went, oh yeah, okay. Gave a little prayer for the guy. But I think that's really beautiful. And I think that there's also a piece there, and now I can't remember what the question was. It was about inner knowing that came up for me. Oh, I know what it was. I was going to say there's that piece there of trust. It's so huge. That message has come to me for years and years now. Trust with a capital T is what my guides like to say, because it's just so important that we recognize that when we trust ourselves, even if we're a little bit off on something, it still comes around. There's still enough information there that it comes around. So we just
as a psychic reader, it's the first information that comes through. The very first thing that comes unbidden, that's correct information. Now the mind will then say, oh, that doesn't make sense. A butterfly, seriously? And it will try to dismiss it. And I have a story about a card I hid one time. Taught me not to hide cards. A beautiful young lady was ahead of me and was sitting in front of me, and she wanted to know what is going to happen in my week. And so these different things. And then this one card came up and it said restriction. And at the top of the card was the Roman numeral 3, 3 bars.
Mm-hmm.
And when I looked at that, it looked like jail bars, right?
Yeah.
And I just got this weird chill. And I was like, this would never happen to her. It doesn't even make sense. She's just this angelic, joyful little ball of happy, fluffy wonderfulness, right? Doesn't make sense at all.
Right.
I just kind of hid the card and then finished the reading. She called me a week later and she said, you were my psychic. Why didn't you tell me I was going to be thrown in jail? And I was like,
oh my goodness.
I knew you were. I hid the card.
Oh, yes.
So, and I've never, ever done that again. That was such a valuable lesson. Just trust it, even if it doesn't make sense. What is a butterfly in the military? How can that go together?
Yeah.
We just have to trust it. And that same thing, that inner knowing, I need to turn left here, even though I was planning on turning right. Trust it, move on it. Mm-hmm. Take the left. You'll find out why soon enough, right? That feeling, oh, I need to call Aunt Grace. Just do it right then, right? Whatever, when that unbidden knowledge comes, unbidden, like you didn't even think of it. It was there in your voice, in your head, but you didn't actually kind of think of it. Trust that.
Yeah. And sometimes you find out later, oh, good thing I listened. Lots of times you don't necessarily find that out. You only find it out if you don't listen. and you do turn right instead of left, and then you're stuck in a big traffic jam, or you're in a car accident, or your car gets, scratched on a tree, or whatever the case might be. And so intuition is interesting that way, because it's like prevention, right? You can't prove that prevention works in most cases, because you can't say for certain that that outcome would have occurred if you hadn't done what you did. Mm-hmm. So, Angie, we have come to the end of our time for today. We are trying to keep these short and sweet, because we know that we all have such busy lives, and we want to give you something that you can just bring up and spend half an hour or less and learn something, but also maybe just feel validated or feel encouraged to go on, or whatever it is that's going to help you through this day. So we'd like to invite you to provide us with questions. Also, your name, if you would like to be involved. Angie's going to do some short healings or some psychic readings or things like that. She's willing to do those right for us here on the show. And so all you need to do is go to crystalarrays.com, and that website is going to show up at the end of the video. You'll find it there. You will see Candlelight Conversations. It's under the media tab, I believe. And you can go to our page there, and you'll find that there is a spot where you can click to go to the contact page. You can find our bios and all the stuff I told you about earlier. So please send us your ideas. Send us kudos, send us feedback. If you didn't enjoy what you didn't enjoy, we will use that information to help make this something that is really worthwhile for all of you, because you are the people watching. Good enough, Angie? Anything you want to add?
Yeah, one little thing I wanted to add. I want to encourage people to notice when they get, goose pimples, chicken flesh, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Notice just before you got it, what was the last thing you thought, or the last thing you said, or the last thing you heard? Because some inner part of you is trying to bring attention to it. It's like rattling little chimes. It's giving you goose pimples. There's something very truthful to notice. And this is a form of inner knowing as well. It's paying attention to when we get goose pimples. We just heard something true that's important.
Yes, I call them angel hugs when I get goosebumps, and I love them. So it works perfect as a way to end Candlelight Conversations with angels. Pay attention to those angel bumps.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Blessings to everyone. Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you, Angie. Angel.
Angel. Bye-bye.
Bye.